If I had to pick just one thing, the single most important skill for success in pretty much any field, it's probably not what you're thinking. So today, let's break down the one capability that truly, fundamentally changes the game. Albert Einstein really, really got this. He knew that curiosity isn't just some cute trait for kids. No, it's the engine, it's the fundamental driver for pretty much every big discovery and breakthrough. And in the world of business, it's the engine of success, plain and simple. Okay, so let's narrow it down. Let's talk about sales. What do you think is the number one skill that separates the absolute best from, well, everyone else? Just take a second. What's your answer? You got it? All right, so if you said prospecting or being a great closer or even building amazing relationships, look, those are all absolutely critical skills, but they're not the one. The real answer is the thing that fuels all of those other skills in the first place. It's curiosity. And when you see it laid out like this, the difference it makes is just staggering. Top performers are genuinely, deeply curious. They ask questions not because their script says so, but because they actually want to know the answer. They listen to really understand. The mediocre performers, they're just going through the motions. They ask questions to check a box, and they listen for one or two keywords so they can jump into their pitch. The gap in their results is absolutely massive. So if being curious is such a superpower, why is it so incredibly rare? Well, the tough reality is that in a lot of companies today, real curiosity isn't just being ignored, it's being actively stamped out. So what's killing it? Well, look at this list. You've got rigid scripts that tell people exactly what to say, leaving no room for real thought. You've got activity metrics that reward making 100 generic calls over having 3 meaningful conversations. Add in intense pressure to hit this quarter's numbers, and it's basically a perfect storm that suffocates the very skill we need the most. And here is a perfect, almost painful example of this problem in action. The author of our source material got a cold call from a salesperson, and you know what? The seller actually started off great. He asked a really smart, relevant question. It seemed promising for about 2 seconds. The moment the author started to give a real answer, the seller just cut him off. He just couldn't help himself. He heard a keyword and bam, launched right into his canned pitch. He wasn't listening to understand. He was just listening for his cue to talk. And here's the kicker. By showing he wasn't actually curious, he completely blew it. He had a genuinely interested buyer on the line and had absolutely no idea. Okay, so how do we fix this? How do we actually start developing this skill and move past just asking questions because we're supposed to? Well, let's break down a really practical framework for building genuine, powerful curiosity. First things first, we have to get that not all curiosity is created equal. On one hand, you have superficial curiosity. That's just performance art. It's asking questions to check a box. On the other, you have deep curiosity. This is a genuine, authentic desire to understand. It's about digging below the surface, starting real conversations, and building trust so people tell you what's really going on. And believe me, your customers can feel the difference from a mile away. So where do we point this deep curiosity? It really comes down to 3 key dimensions. First, being curious about your customer. Second, being curious about their whole market, their entire industry. And third, and this one can be the toughest, is being curious about yourself and how you can get better. The top performers, they're masters of all 3. Now let's dive into customer curiosity, because there are 2 critical layers here. You've got the organizational level, that's all the facts, the figures, the company strategy, and honestly, most people stop right there. But the real magic happens at the individual level. This is about the people involved, their personal wins, their fears, their ambitions. This is where deals are truly won or lost. And this slide gets right to the heart of what's really going on inside their heads. Every person you talk to has a deep-seated fear of messing up. They're quietly asking themselves these questions. If this goes wrong, does it hurt my career? Is this going to make me look bad? How much extra work is this for me? These are the powerful, unspoken emotions that only deep, patient curiosity will ever uncover. Okay, so we've covered the what and the why. We get it. Curiosity matters. So now for the important part. How do we actually do this? Let's get practical and turn this theory into something you can actually practice. Here are 6 habits you can start building literally today. Number 1, challenge your own assumptions. Constantly ask yourself, what if I'm wrong about this? Get comfortable saying, I don't know, because that's not weakness. It's the starting line for learning. And maybe most importantly, when you're in a conversation, actually listen to learn. Don't just wait for your turn to talk. If you make time for these habits, you'll see a huge change. All right, let's take this up a notch, because there's a level of listening that goes way beyond just collecting information. It's about making the other person feel truly and deeply heard. And in today's world, that is the ultimate competitive advantage. So I want you to ask yourself honestly, how are you really listening? Are you just waiting for a pause so you can jump in and follow your own agenda? That just leads to a transaction. Or are you fully present, following their train of thought, asking questions to help them get more clarity? That creates trust. In a world where nobody feels heard, being the person who truly listens, well, that's a superpower. Let me give you one last story that shows this in action. A seller is in a big meeting, and for 10 solid minutes, he's just pitching features. You know the drill. The customer is nodding politely, but the energy is dead. The deal is going nowhere. Then, an advisor in the meeting pauses everything and asks one single question. That was it. That was the question. Not about the product, not about price, not about features. It was purely about the consequence of doing nothing. What happens if you don't solve this? And that one simple, curious question, it changed everything. It kicked off a 30-minute conversation about the real business impact, the stuff that actually mattered to them. The whole dynamic of the meeting shifted from a pitch to a partnership. And the deal, which had been totally stalled, it closed just 2 weeks later. That's the power we're talking about. So that brings us to the final question. And this one's for you, because your curiosity or your lack of it really determines the answer to this. Are you just a vendor, someone who sells a thing and can be easily replaced? Or are you a true thinking partner, someone who brings so much value through your understanding that you become irreplaceable? The choice is entirely yours.